All right, we are back with another episode of 90s Noise. I'm April, born 1991.
And I'm Ashley, born 1988. So we just want to thank everyone for listening to our episode. And we want to remind everyone that we do have a Patreon account that you can find a link to either in our show notes for each episode, or you can find the link to it on our Instagram, which is 90s Noise. And we have a great deal for $3 a month. You have access to all of our videos of all of our episodes, all of the exclusive interviews that we do with all of our guests. You also will have access to a couple of fun bonus episodes each month, either related to a past episode or just something random that we decided to do. So we would love it if you would go on and support us and check that out. Also remember to follow us on Instagram, and of course leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcast, whatever platform that is. Leave us a review. We would love to hear from you. We really do appreciate all of your support, and we will definitely shout out any reviews that we get.
Don't be afraid. Send us some messages on Instagram. We love talking to people and hearing feedback. And yeah, we would love to hear from you. Oh my gosh. Okay, so before we go into the episodes, we got to talk about that. We got to talk about the fact that they were so indecisive on the fucking opening credits.
Yeah.
What the, like, I did watch for each season. And with the exception of season 6 and 7, they like changed it every fucking season.
They did, which I know we had talked about the theme song before in another episode, and we had said that it was a really smart decision on their part to change it after the first, I think season 3 was when the new theme came around, but it was not even really a theme, really. It was just, they didn't have like a theme, you know what I mean? Like it was no opening intro.
They really didn't.
Until season 4 when it was like, okay, that's the classic Boy Meets World theme that we all know.
Yeah, so I love how I always end up doing this. Thank you, ADHD. How we jump into like just something random in our podcast without even like going into detail about what we're fucking talking about. As I've been listening to other podcasters, I'm like, oh, they have like a flow at the beginning. I'm like, we don't jump right fucking in.
I mean, I'm assuming everyone knows what we're talking about, though. Like, it's Boy Meets World.
It's Boy Meets World.
Doesn't really need much explanation. Like,
I know, it's just one of those things that like I got to think about. I'm like, shit.
We could start with why we're talking about it. You know, like what's the reason that we're talking about it.
Okay, so yeah, let's go into that before we jump into too much of the episodes and everything.
30th anniversary.
30th anniversary of it premiering. Not just that, but we, in a few weeks' time, about like a week and a half once this comes out, are going to be going to 90s Con in Tampa that 10 cast members from Boy Meets World will be at.
That's
which
crazy.
I'm fucking stoked, honestly.
Yeah, I don't think I'll plan on meet all of them, but it is going to be cool to see them all there together and like see their panel and just kind of be around all of that.
Like, this is definitely a panel that I was going to talk to you about. I was like, am I going to be watching this panel alone?
No, girl, no.
Unless it's during the Charmed photo op on Saturday. That's the only time.
Don't kill us with that, please.
Don't kill us with that, please. But yeah, so Boy Meets World, we're chatting on that. This is going to be a 2-parter. We gave each other each an episode from each season to watch, and we're going to talk a little bit about the episodes on the first 4 seasons that we watched, and then part 2 will be the last 3.
We were up for the challenge.
we were up for the challenge. This is definitely a show. While the first season, I think I probably don't quite remember watching as much, obviously, because I was 2. when it came out, but I truly do remember this show so much. Like going back through these episodes, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot
Mm-hmm.
about that. Forgot about that part. Oh yeah, definitely. So,
Yeah, there's a lot
what
of
about you?
storylines, and I think that I remember them playing this show in reruns like all the time. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like you
my
could
gosh,
almost always
yes.
turn on like the Disney Channel or whatever, and it would be on for a couple hours at a time. So even if you didn't get the chance to watch it when it was airing, because I know I didn't watch it in 93, probably not even until maybe 96, 97, more the later half of the 90s, when
Mhm.
I could really like understand it more, just because I mean it is kids that are basically going into high school. So when you're
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
in elementary school yourself, it's not really going to be super relatable. You're going to be kind of like, okay.
True.
So this was definitely more of a show that I watched once I was in my probably high school years. And then it was just reruns at that point, because I think by then the show had ended.
2000 is when.
Yeah. So I would have been just getting into high school. So,
Mhm. Yeah, I remember watching it because it was just the timing. Reruns, of course, were like you said on a lot during like the
wasn't
day or
it
something.
wasn't it
It was
a
a
TGIF show
TG.
though? Okay. Yeah. And
Yeah,
I may have
in the
watched
later
it then.
years.
Right. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
when I may have caught it, because like Sabrina and all those other ones that
Hmm.
would have come on. Yeah.
Yeah. I still enjoy it to this day.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot how many fucking people had cameos. Whether it was they had like a 4 or 5 episode stint, a single episode, just background character, whatever, like 2 lines, those kinds of things. I legitimately, even just the ones that we watched, there was some that was like, oh fuck, I forgot about that person being in there, which just made it even more interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, I did like all the different random guest stars that happened on the show. I mean, we didn't even hit probably half of those that made an appearance throughout the run
No.
of the show. But yeah, I did notice a couple in those episodes. I was like, oh, I forgot about that. And there were
Yeah.
like other episodes that I had saw that had like Larissa was in some episodes.
Mhm.
No, I'm blanking on her
Linda Car-
name.
uh Linda Cardinelli
Mm-hmm. Yes.
played the infamous Lauren in the later in like 2 or 3 episodes. I didn't realize that was her until I was going back through and seeing like the little synopsis and it saying who, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
no, no,
Yeah.
wait, what? So that was interesting on that one. Or going back and seeing somebody and you're like, why do they look familiar? And then you're like, oh, it's because they later on went on and did something else and
Mm.
it never clicked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think some people probably got their start on this show. I mean,
Hmm.
Minkus, I mean, I feel like this was kind of a big stepping stone for his career. Lee Norris, that kind of, he went on to do like One Tree Hill and
Hmm.
other things. So,
We've got for season 1, 2 episodes. We'll go ahead and give you guys the episode name and the like what episode of that season it was.
I will say this first episode that you gave,
Hmm.
it hit a lot more than I was expecting it to. You know what I mean? Like it started out, I'm like, okay,
Oh
but
yeah.
then like why halfway through was I starting to get teary-eyed? Why?
Oh.
Like I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
oh my God. By the end, I'm like, oh my God, this show, it was only, I think this is like what, episode 8 of this first season. I'm
This
like,
was
this
episode
show
8.
already in its first season, 8th episode in, hard-hitting
Hit
topics,
hard.
life lessons. I completely forgot about, I thought, like I remember it being very funny and just lighthearted and stuff, but I didn't remember all of the different life lessons that this show
Hmm.
taught. I was very impressed as an adult to go back and now appreciate it more, and kind of wish I had that same high school environment
Yeah.
because like damn, that was amazing for those
Agree.
kids.
Yeah, so this we're talking about season 1, episode 8. It's called Teacher's Bet with a B as in boy. Just a little quick rundown on the synopsis. Cory's pretty much just being a normal, what, 6th grader, I think is what they are at this
Yes,
in
they
this first
start out as
season.
6th grade.
And pretty much just kind of, in a sense, picking on Mr. Feeny, like saying, well, the only thing that ever changes is the kids in your class. You just tell us to read the same assignments and all this kind of thing. And so one thing I did love about Mr. Feeny's character, how they portrayed it, was that he really taught them true life lessons. But it wasn't I'm telling you this life lesson.
Mm-hmm.
It was something like this, where he made a bet with Cory that if he could teach his class for a week, and if at the end of the week, the test that was given, if more students passed than normal, he'd get a fifth of his salary for that week. But if more students failed than normal, then Mr. Feeny was going to get Cory's bite.
And the sad part about it is that this episode sort of brought light to teachers' pay and, how hardworking that they are. And I'm pretty sure that most students, when they're in school, they do kind of have that similar mindset, like, oh, they're just teaching the same thing, that it can't be that hard of a job, and like, la, 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 la. But unfortunately, it hasn't changed since in 30 years. Teachers are still fighting for better pay. And, it's kind of sad.
It's incredibly sad. And I think one of the reasons why this episode stuck with me so well through all these years is the realization that Cory finally has when he sees that this prejudice is still going on. And because his brother's dating a Asian American girl, and she comes to their home and she's absolutely distraught. I actually really like Eric's character in the first few seasons more than the later seasons, because I feel like he's got a little bit more depth to him. And he's like, Cory, get away. She needs some space and everything. And like, of course, Cory and the little sister are like, what's going on? What's going on? And he's just like, he's a lot more mature, I feel, in the earlier,
which is
seasons.
A little backwards, because yeah, that was one thing about the show. As I was rewatching these episodes, I didn't like Eric's character. You know what I mean? Like, it just I could have done without that. Like, it just was very repetitive, that's all he was really given was, okay, new girl, new girl, new girl, just playing this constant, just bouncing from girl to girl, and then being basically a slacker, in the end when he graduates, and not doing anything. And it was very frustrating. I'm like, oh my God, like, Eric, seriously, dude, why have you not learned any lessons in all your years at being at the high school with Mr. Feeny?
That's why I did like his character earlier on, because like I said, I felt like I don't know if maybe it was, since everybody else was growing up, they still needed that comedic relief and they used him, or if maybe he as an actor asked for it. I'm not sure where that kind of came from, but I would have liked to have seen him progress the way that the others did.
Right. Yeah. I feel like that was kind of the biggest downside of the whole series, is just Eric's character being a little bit of a dud. But what can you do? There is always that character in every show. I mean, there always has to be.
Yeah. With this episode, they're reading Anne Frank, Diary of Anne Frank. And the class is getting out of hand, all this kind of thing. And Cory pretty much, after reading the entire book himself, which he never does.
He did have help from his dad, though, which was nice. His dad was very supportive through this.
Yeah. Well, his dad just didn't want him to lose the bike that he just bought.
Of course, yeah, there was that little bit to it, but he could have been a non-supporting dad and just been like, I don't know, done something else or whatever,
Yeah,
but he did try.
he did. And when it came down to it, it was a tie. Ended up being a tie. But Cory saw what Mr. Feeny was trying to teach him. Because what was it? I think Shawn had gotten a whole grade higher than what
Mm-hmm.
he normally did
Yep.
and everything.
Can
So
you imagine a student when you were in school? Can you imagine a
mhm.
student teaching your class? Like, did that ever happen, or would you have ever wanted that to happen? Because to me, that just seems like my worst nightmare. Like,
I would be petrified because just knowing a lot of who I'd gone to school with and everything, it would have been very similar to that. But I don't think that they would have then gotten the lesson that was to be learned by doing so.
I mean, and
No,
sometimes those lessons you have to just kind of learn on your own. You know what I mean? Like, you
mhm.
can sort of read a book and be taught about different things in class. And I'm sure there are a lot of things that we learned in school that it wasn't until later on in life where we're like, oh shit, like it clicks now. Like now you can relate it to something and now it makes more sense and now you understand it. So I'm sure a lot of those kids in that class still didn't have a damn clue what Cory was saying, but
Yeah.
they just kind of got by.
Yeah. That was my pick for season 1.
What did you think of Morgan though? Because she was super spunky and cute in that episode. And when she was kind of doing her thing, maybe I'm wrong, but let me know. I was like, I feel like this is how April would have been.
Probably. Honestly, I think that's why I actually like this show so much, was because it felt very similar to my family dynamic, and the fact that there was 2 older
True,
brothers, a
yeah.
younger sister. The middle brother had a best friend that was always over there. That's literally
Oh my
how
God, really?
it was for me. Yes, we always call him, I always call him my third brother, our next door neighbor. He was over at our place as much, if not more, than his own house, just because, I mean, it was hanging out and everything.
Right.
And so yes, I very much did have a lot of similarities with this story. And like I said, I think that's probably why I was drawn to it
Mm-hmm.
and enjoyed it. And I still enjoy it. I still see those similarities of things. But yeah, I mean, that was me in a sense. I would always try to be a part of everything when I was growing up, even if my brothers didn't want me to. But yeah, that I definitely resonated with Morgan a lot. And Morgan's my middle name.
I didn't even know that. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah. So by the end of this episode, there I go. I'm like, of course, getting all emotional, very touching. I'm like, Anne Frank, and
Oh yeah.
very good choice.
And that was just the first one.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, here we go.
So did you watch these in order? Because I did. I went to IMDb.
I had to, because otherwise I would have been even more lost. Even though I was still lost sometimes, but
so the next episode was your pick, which was season 1, episode 21, Boy Meets Girl.
So my comment about Topanga is her clothes were always so amazing. Like those dresses that she wore in class, like, oh my God, I would die. Like that. I could never pull that off.
I wish that we could find one,
like
to be able to wear for 90s con.
Oh.
But I could never get my hair to be that fucking insanely amazing.
Yeah, no. Yeah, that was insane.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So this was your pick. What resonated with you on this one?
I just liked the idea that this episode was kind of the beginning of that relationship between the two of them. You know what I mean? Like it really is the kickoff to where they're like, oh, wait a second. Okay. And I just thought it was so cute. I can't relate to it at all because I didn't go through that same thing in
Mm.
school with like, that's like the one thing about the show that's not relatable at all is all the relationships and all that kind of stuff because I didn't go through any of that. So I think they were 12 or whatever, and watching a what is like a health education type videos,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
Like
Those things.
it was
Oh my
just kind
God.
of hysterical because the girls are all like, and the boys are like, what? No.
Like, this is a horror movie.
Which I personally don't remember health videos at school. I'm assuming we probably watched
Not
them. Don't remember them at
not
all.
to that extreme.
Yeah, I don't know that we even did. Like, I don't
Or
know.
if we did, it was separated at my school. Like at that
Yes,
age, we were
yes.
separated.
Mm-hmm.
The girls
and
watched one, and then the boys watched another one.
Yeah, that's weird. That is weird that they did it together. I am kind of surprised for being so young, like technically middle school age. I'm surprised they did throw them all together because the guys were like, the guys should have had their own video, the girls should have had their own video, not like one combined.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was strange. But anyways, it was really cute when Shawn was like all of a sudden
He's like
what?
giddy and like just, oh my gosh, that cracked me up. And then like how Cory originally wanted to, the whole reason he asked Topanga was to get back at Shawn and everything. And then like faking sick and her coming over with
oh my god, like the sweetest. And
then I loved the whole laundry basketball thing. That fucking hilarious. Just
yikes.
Great. I loved it. And her awkwardness, step to the side.
And then just a casual like, boop, okay, it's in the basket. Like, what?
I do like that. That was kind of where I had forgot about this one. Like that was their intro into being there's something more with these two. But absolutely loved it. Loved it.
Yeah, I did really love that dynamic with them. But like I said, not relatable. I didn't date like that. You said you didn't date, right? That young. Like, no. I'm like, this is crazy. No. All of these little boys and girls like, oh, yeah. I mean, this is just season 1. Like once we get into some of these other seasons with these, I'm like, whoa, okay.
You're like, wait a second.
What did I miss out on? Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy. Yeah.
This did not happen at my school.
If it did, I was completely blind to it. I have no idea. But
my school, like both of the high schools I went to actually were a little bit more risque of things and stuff, but I just never was a part of it. I was too much of a goody.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah. I just didn't go do that crazy stuff. But
yeah, no. For me, it was go to school, do that, come home, horses.
Yeah,
that was me. I've said that before many times, but horses, that's it. That was where my focus was. I had to do well in school. I had to make sure I was behaved well, because if I wasn't, my horse privileges would be taken away, and that sure as hell was not happening. So I had to stay in line.
Absolutely. All right, so now we're moving on to season 2.
Okay, so season 2. So season 1, they're in 6th grade. Season 2, starting a new year. I'm like, okay, they're going into 7th grade. Let's go, kiddies. I was incorrect on that. I completely forgot about this aspect of the show, but they completely skipped 2 whole years of these kids' lives and pretended like they never happened. And they went straight into 9th grade. Google it, girl, because I had to do that. Is that
how that worked?
Yes, they completely disintegrated 2 years of their life, because supposedly was not an episode that we rewatched, but they were supposed to graduate in the class of 2000, but they didn't. They graduated in the class of 98 because and not to mention, you remember in season 1 how much older Eric was, and now all of a sudden Eric is like he's only like 2 years ahead of them instead of like 4.
Well, but I mean, that was also you assumed he just got held
I always
back
thought he got held back, but that's not what it was.
Well, I know I was seeing that and everything, because because I think what it was, I thought it was that they had time jumped twice.
They might have time jumped again. I don't know.
to make that work, because yeah, and like for me, I guess, but were they freshmen?
Yeah, because like in one of the episodes, what Mr. Turner, he's saying, oh, give him a break. He's at a new school and stuff. And I'm like, new school?
Yeah,
Ain't this
but
shit the same? But no, it's not. It's a new school.
But yeah, it's a
high
new
school. It's high school.
But I always thought that it was 7 through 12.
Yeah, see, I thought it was like junior high, but it's not. It's actually high school.
I thought it was 7 through 12.
Because if you count out the seasons, if season 2 they're in 8, if 9.
Okay, but so you can't really just assume.
Just the way that the episodes go, like they do a whole school year and then they're on summer break and then they go back to school and then it's like.
So, well, because there's like one or two seasons where they don't do that. They actually like skip into a new grade in the middle of the season, I think, or something like that. It's just they
weren't consistent, and I mean,
yeah, they do weird shit like
that. A lot of shows do that, and I mean that honestly, it worked for them to jump ahead to high school because I feel like there's only at least according to what I was reading too, like there's only so much you can do with kids in 7th and 8th grade, and like that's like a Degrassi thing, which worked well for them, but I don't know. What was this?
So yours was season 2, episode 3.
Oh yes.
So notorious.
Yeah, I love the comment that I think it was a parents, because wasn't Eric saying something about, or somebody, I don't have money for college, or I don't know, and the parents were like, oh yeah, we don't really have the money, and they do like the shot of the house and you're like, this house looks pretty nice.
Oh my gosh, I know
thinking the exact same thing, but
I was thinking you're not the exact same thing because Cory is he's having to have a talk with Mr. Feeny, and I think Mr. Feeny had called, and Cory's like, yeah, well, he's threatening suspension.
Oh yeah, this is the one where they call him Mr. Weenie, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to remember
because he's the new principal.
Yes. Okay.
He
went
from a teacher to a principal.
Mm-hmm. But it only works because of the 2-year disappearance. So I'm like, why does all of a sudden he's a principal? But
because mom's talking about how if he gets suspended, he's going to have a suspension on his permanent record, and he's not going to be able to get into a good college. And I did find it interesting. I was thinking actually about Full House when Dad said, it doesn't matter about grades or suspension. If you have the money, you can get into a good college. Mm-hmm. And then that's when it was well, we don't have do we have the money for that? And it's like, oh no, we're poor. And I'm just like, okay, yeah, no, not poor with that fucking house, first off.
But the other weird thing about it is that Eric and Cory are sharing the same room, and up until they graduate, I'm like, how are these two grown teenagers sharing the same room? Like, did your brothers share the same room for?
So they did for a while, and because we actually did, ours was a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath. Yeah, I mean they had shared a bedroom since I was on the way. I do kind of, like I said, another similarity. I do understand that.
I mean,
that
it
process.
looks like if you only have house, but again, it seemed like the bottom floor didn't have any living like bedrooms. So I guess on the top there could have only been 3. So I mean, it just is very odd. But
so this one also had the bullies, I guess you could say.
Yes, I never cared for the bullies. I don't know. They were those characters that looked like they didn't fit in because they just seemed so much older than everyone else. And like, I know they're seniors, but you're also just like, they didn't do anything. They what were you there for? You just were bullying people. You didn't go to class.
So Ethan Suplee, who played Frankie, the bigger guy, he's been in so much since.
Really?
One thing that he was also, did you ever see Without a Paddle?
Yes.
He was one of the bad guys in that.
I haven't seen that movie though since it came out, so
it's, oh my gosh, I'll still watch that randomly and everything. But he's been in a lot. He was also, I think, in Well, he was in Remember the Titans.
As one of the football players.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think I do remember that.
He had this scene where he was potentially like failing or something in Denzel Washington's character. Like he's got the scene in the locker room with him where he's like, I got a D or something, like I passed, and gives him a hug and stuff. And so yeah, he went on to go do a lot. Now we also have one of our favorites that was in this episode too, Mr. Jason Marsden.
He did make quite a few appearances throughout this show.
He did, yes.
I do feel like he was playing like the same character that he played in Step by Step, just one of the main characters' best friend, sidekick type things. Just, I don't know, well, it just seemed very similar.
And his name was his name.
I know, that too. That was easy. I did.
Well, wasn't it that way in Step by Step too?
I think so.
Yeah, because in one of the later ones that we watched, I think in the season 3 or 4, your pick in season 3 or 4, IMDb talked about how it was in a sense another crossover because that one, I'll be honest, I didn't remember this episode very well.
Oh, really? This is one that I remember a lot. Like I remember them just doing these hijinks of like, oh, or Shawn, I should say, let's change his name. That's so funny, ha ha ha. Like, and Mr. Weenie, like I don't know, it's so silly, but I just find it hysterical. Like, I would have never done anything like that in school, but
no, I would have been too afraid of like the repercussion of what would have potentially happened.
But I did like that Cory is always looking out for Shawn, and you know what I mean? Like I did find that to be very moving, that he could have ratted on him, but he didn't, you know, and it ended up working out for them both in the end anyways, because, you know, Mr. Feeny's a nice guy. He's not out to punish them.
Yeah, absolutely. So my episode for season 2 was season 2, episode 10, Sister Teresa.
I had forgotten about this episode but then like halfway through, I'm like, oh, I know where this is going. I remember like what's happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
So another cameo, and I love this because damn straight I am gonna meet her at Spooky when I go. But Danielle Harris, it plays Teresa. It's just one of those episodes that I don't even know how to explain this. Like it stuck with me so well that I was watching it and I'm like, what was the last time I saw this? Like 7-8 years ago at least. I'm like throwing lines out and everything, like remembering like exact parts coming up. Oh yeah, this is where he runs into the other goon and they're like, oh no, we're good, and Cory's like, oh, this nice thing's paying off and everything, and not knowing that the whole reason that the bullies are being nice to him is because Teresa is bully number 1's baby sister.
Didn't you feel like Harvey kind of had like a Grease vibe to him?
Oh my gosh.
Like that's all absolutely. I can think
about. Grease, crybaby, like he kind of had like a outsider kind of all of those. Yeah, like a greaser. He was a greaser.
Yeah. I did like to see that though. Like I liked how they portrayed it with this, you know, bully that's always that bully of the school and everyone tormenting all the kids. They showed that softer side of him. You know what I mean? Like he was protecting his sister, and that he really could be a decent guy, but he chooses to not be, which is like, of course. But her character was so cringe. I could not, like, I cannot imagine ever encountering someone like that. I would be like, goodbye. Like, no.
Oh my God. But I loved it so
much. She played it so well. Like, absolutely.
She did a fucking amazing job. I absolutely loved it. And for being so young too.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like for Ryder, Ben, and Danielle, they molded into their characters. Like
Mm-hmm.
they became one with their characters in a sense because they played them for so long.
Mm-hmm.
But to come in at such a young age and be thrown into that group and just, I think Danielle fucking nailed it. And I love it.
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah.
absolutely fucking love it.
Like Stalker 101, she knocked it out of the park. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm like, whoa.
So did you watch? So I did like how for a while they were doing like at the end credits, the start of the credits, there was like that last scene.
Yeah, I did.
Did
I did
you
like
watch
those.
the one for this one
Oh yeah.
where
Oh
she's
yeah.
like, Mr. and Mrs. Matthews,
Oh my
thank you
god.
so much for having
Like
me. Oh, this
robot.
lobster's missing a arm or whatever. Oh my gosh! And like just
Just
Mr. and Mrs. Matthews.
like
This is so like,
the parents were just looking at her like, is she broken? Like, oh.
I fucking love that. Like, absolutely love that. Like, I could not stop laughing when I was watching that because that was so, yes, it was absolute cringe, but it was so fucking good.
Yeah, it
Like,
was so well done that you
yeah.
believed it. Like
Oh,
you believed what she was saying. I did find that the end of the episode funny where he's talking to Cory about it, and he's like, oh well, she put the moves on me, and then he turns around and he asked the boys behind him, and
yes.
they were like, fuck, we're out of here. Harvey's
They're like,
a
peace.
sister? Oh shit.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, I fucking love that part. And I loved how like when he's trying to get out of the car, everything, he's like, Hunter, get me out of here. Shawn, hurry up. Thanks for saying my whole name, Cory.
Harvey, like really? Like
Yeah.
of all changes. Okay, dude.
Oh yeah.
Like you gotta pick something different.
Yeah. But like you were saying, it was nice to see Harley's softer side, and you kind of got a little bit more understanding for that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
she talks about it in the car when she was 8 years old or whatever. Her dad took her to a freaking baseball game and up and left her for some chick with tits, and he had to come on his bicycle. It doesn't sound like he was old enough to drive at that point. So he had to come down on his bicycle because their mom wasn't being a parent. And that was one of the things too about this show, that it really involved a lot of the different family dynamic storylines.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't always just cookie cutter mom and dad together type of situation.
Right.
It got deep and it touched on so much. And I think that was also what I loved about this. And it almost makes me like, I think because it wasn't originally on Disney, was it? It wasn't
No, it was an
originally like an
ABC.
ABC.
Mm-hmm. ABC
Yeah.
Family.
Okay, because I was gonna say I know Disney acquired it later on, but like some of these topics wouldn't have been a Disney topic.
Right. That's what I was thinking. Like with that first episode, about the prejudice and stuff, it's like, wow, like that's a big topic to just jump right into.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I that's what I find where I find this show to kind of go off in a different direction than like Full House, is because Full House was very cookie cutter. It was just that one family dynamic. Whereas this one, you did get to see more of Shawn's background and Topanga's background and the bully's background and so many other people that came into the show. And it kind of gave you a different perspective on all of that. And it's like, oh, okay, so we don't all have to have that perfect family that Cory kind of has,
Yeah. And that's one of the things I did love about this show, and why I think it's still, to this day, they're still going strong 30 years later. Like why I think that panel is going to be quote unquote sold out at 90s Con. Because this is just such a show that resonated with so many people across the board.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, yeah, because it told stories from so many different perspectives, not just the kids, but it also was able to tell more adult storylines and from the parents' perspectives. And then it took it to the teachers' perspectives. And so,
Mhm.
like, you really got like a full high school experience, so to speak, from all different angles. So now as an adult, us being able to go back and rewatch it, it's not necessarily always so much about the kids and what they're doing and stuff. It's okay, what are the parents saying to the kids? Or what are the teachers saying to the kids? Like, how is that connecting? And that's why I think some of these episodes hit a little bit differently. And I was getting a bit
Yeah.
more emotional because I was like, I mean, we're not really even on the episode yet where I had my notes about it, but like Mr. Feeny, I was just like, okay, we'll talk about him more, but I was just like I always loved his character and just thought he was fun and stuff. But as an adult now, I'm like, wow, like that character now I understand it more.
Oh yeah.
Fucking amazing.
Fucking amazing. And he did an incredible job. And that's why he's really at the top of my list. Definitely one of my favorite characters from the show. Absolutely. Hands down.
The other thing that I noticed about their school, which I don't recall having, was the payphones.
Yeah.
Did you have payphones in your school?
So the high school that my dad and my brothers graduated from, which is the one that I started at, did for a little while. It did have a payphone. When I was there, when I got into high school, everybody had cell phones at that point. So there wasn't. Did you notice? Okay. Did you notice that almost every single fucking episode, once they're in high school, the door by the payphone changes of what it's for?
So yes, so I did notice that, and I really did think that they were just changing it. But I think if you look at like the rest of how the hallway is displayed, it is supposed to be a different part of the school. It's not supposed to be like that same hallway. They probably did like just change around the same set, but it is a different part of the school technically. Because I was like, wait, why is that now a bathroom? That used to be his office, but it's not. I was like, wait a second. But then like they did a little pan, and you could tell there was like a small part that didn't like how it did in the last scene. Yeah. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, you guys are better. You don't be fucking with us. Like, I see what you're doing.
I wasn't paying that close attention. I just was like, but no, that was
I had to. I was like, that can't happen.
Yeah. Oh, now let's get on to season 3.
Season 3.
My episode was episode 20. Yours was 21. So we'll start with mine.
Yeah, we kind of went to the end of this season, so I'm not really sure what happened at the beginning, but
I can't remember.
All I can say is that they definitely have hit puberty, or as Cory likes to call it, puberty.
Puberty.
I'm like, okay, now I can see the changes are happening there in high school.
Yes. So season 3, episode 20 is I Never Sang for My Legal Guardian, which this title is really kind of confusing. I picked it because it is one that has a little bit more with Mr. Turner and Shawn's relationship, because I can't remember if it was season 2 or if it was in season 3 where Shawn goes to live with Mr. Turner because his dad's and his mom are having issues, and mom left, and so dad's trying to chase after her, and he can't be left on his own. He's a 15, 16-year-old kid. Shawn's just very emotional about the fact that his dad he's not heard from his dad. It's been pretty much just letters. They're coming from an hour away. And this is another one that like it really can hit hard on the different family dynamics, because Cory obviously doesn't quite understand it, because like I said earlier, Cory has pretty much this cookie cutter family, and Shawn doesn't. This was I'll be honest, I kind of got annoyed with Cory's character during this episode.
Yeah.
Because he's just, I mean, like a super goofy, like a little too goofy on it for me, whereas Shawn's really going through a hard time, and it's like, this is your best fucking friend. Shut up and listen to what he's trying to say. I don't know, it was just one that I do remember a handful of the ones where Shawn was in Mr. Turner's care and that dynamic. And this one was just one that was, it kind of touched on all points. You also got to see Shawn's dad.
Yeah, I made the note for this one, which now I'm having a hard time remembering for what reason, but maybe you can help me. I put that I actually liked Eric in this episode. What was his storyline in this one again? All I can remember is like at the end he threw that thing through the window and the parents were like surprisingly not that mad. They were like, oh well, you're gonna have to pay for that. But I've been like, fuck, you're grounded. Like, what the fuck?
So he in this episode, it took me a second there. He's tutoring the basketball player or whatever. So instead, like Mr. Feeny had asked him to tutor this guy because he needed to actually get a passing grade because he's got all these different colleges after him. And if he doesn't pass, he can't take him. Eric's trying to he's a senior, so he's finally understanding that like he's got to figure out whatever the fuck's going on after high school. Where I did like at the end where he gets his grade on the midterm and he's like, oh, Mr. Feeny, you forgot to finish your sentence. It just says A.
A what? I love that. Yeah. Like first day ever. What?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I did like that bit with him. I mean, I thought that was nice of him and Mr. Feeny kind of having that connection and kind of learning a little lesson from him. I felt like it was finally a step away from him just being that puppy dog chasing after a girl. You know what I mean? They finally gave him a slightly different role, and I wish they would have done more of that. You know what I mean? Because I really did like where that was going. I was like, okay, he's tolerable. I'm enjoying this. And then he went back to whatever, I think, the next episode. But
yeah.
But yeah, I don't like the season 3 opening title. It's super lame. I just don't think it, as bad as the first couple seasons of the intro music, making it sound like some educational PBS show. I don't know. This one wasn't the right direction either, but
no, it really wasn't. But they got it after a little bit. So then your episode was episode 21, Happiest Show on Earth.
Which I have to say right there, that is an incorrect tagline. Like people do that all the time and they go, oh, it's the happiest place on earth. Disney World is not the happiest place on earth. That's Disneyland.
It's where dreams are made, right? Or dreams come true? Or what's Disney World?
I think it's like the most magical place or something. I don't know, but Disneyland is the happiest place.
Yeah,
not
Disneyland's
Orlando.
The happiest place.
And they always do that when they do this with Disney and their taglines.
So
that kind of annoyed me. Because it's not like they just put in the tagline. Shawn actually says it in the episode, and I'm like, no.
Yeah. So it's Disney World's is the most magical place on earth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, why couldn't they have used magical? Because with the direction they were trying to go with this relationship thing, that would have been just as good. I don't know.
Yeah.
But this whole episode is weird with how are these teenagers just hopping on a flight, going to Orlando, which do you know where they live? Like, do we know?
They're up in Pennsylvania.
Okay. So yeah, that's a pretty long flight to just go. I don't know. I could never imagine doing that myself. And their parents didn't know that Cory's parents didn't know that they were gone until like he gets back, basically. Like 2 days.
Because of Eric's taking care of it, remember?
Okay, so this is another episode where I actually really loved Eric and his role, and he was trying to help Cory, and that fucking doll thing I loved that so much. And then at the end when Mr. Feeney's like, look what I dug.
I love that. I love that.
Hilarious.
Let's talk about the freaking other chick here for a second.
Okay, I don't like her. What is she doing? Like butting in like this?
I was behind you. You just swam really fast.
Who does that? Girl. Yeah. Every time he's talking, she's right there. And then you're like nobody wants that.
Called you a different name. He kissed you and then called you a different name. What woman what girl in their right mind would kiss a guy, and then when breaking from that kiss, if he calls you a different fucking name, still be interested?
Yeah, they did do that a lot with the girls on the show, is they made them very manipulative and like cringe and this very weird puppy dog thing. Topanga was the one female on the show who stood her ground, who had things to say and wasn't about, okay, what do you want to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like that's where I think the difference is with her, and that's why her character is just amazing in that respect.
absolutely.
So props to them for actually having a strong female character, because they could have easily made her the ditzy blonde, or you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they could have taken her in that direction, but she wasn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So real quick, I did forget that Andrew Keegan, who played the
Yes, I was trying to remember what
boy,
his name was. Yeah,
do you remember what do you remember what else he's been in?
he's been in a lot of things. I think wasn't he in a like Full House at one point?
He was in Full House.
Like he hasn't done much lately though.
Lately,
No, right?
not really. Not that like I think we would have seen.
But I do remember him. Like he was a big kind of character in the 90s. Like I remember that kid being in a lot of stuff.
10 Things I Hate About
10
You.
Things. Okay, that's what it is. I knew it was
He is
something.
he is the pretty boy
Yes. He's
in
always
it.
been the pretty boy in everything he played though.
Yeah, but like when I saw that, I'm like, oh my God, that's right. That is him. Yeah, Joey Donner is his character's name in that.
Yeah, I love Topanga and just being like, ew, no. Like, what?
And her calling him out.
Oh, hell yeah. And that's the thing.
I'm
She
like,
did.
fuck yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was a cool episode. I only picked it really just because of the Disney aspect. I know we love watching shows with them going to Disney, because it definitely was a big thing in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Like they always had to have a Disney episode, even though it kind of didn't make much sense. But I was trying to figure out where exactly they were, because I don't remember ever
Epcot.
seeing dolphins. Yeah, they were definitely at Epcot. We know the big ball thing, but are there dolphins at Epcot?
So there used to be, if I remember
Oh,
correctly, there
really?
used to be like the living seas.
Oh.
That's what was they were like in front of you, that they showed multiple times, but they don't have that anymore. Living seas.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, so it was rethemed in 06.
Mm.
That's why. So it's the seas with Nemo and friends now.
Okay.
But it had been the living seas. And now I don't necessarily know if there was the opportunity for people to truly actually go back behind the scenes and stuff like that. I feel like there was, just because I think there's another show or something that did the same thing.
They probably did have some sort of group tour where you could go behind the scenes, feed the dolphins and that type of thing. But didn't you feel like the park didn't seem that busy? Like maybe they bought it out for the day or something, because a lot of areas look dead.
I'm sure it was I'm sure they probably did, or sectioned it off. Most of the time with certain like shows and stuff, due to whatever their liabilities and everything, they have to be able to do that kind of thing. And that's also probably why that main scene at the end with the Cory and Topanga was at night too, because it could be shot. I'm sure they actually shot a lot of it at night, and probably when it was closed, because I mean, you can't control, you can try, but you can't control people.
Yeah.
Like even in the 90s, you couldn't. Now, granted, it wasn't like it is now where everybody's got phone and trying to get the picture and stuff. But yeah, I think they probably just waited until closing or had Epcot close early to be able to do those.
To do most of those. Yeah. It was just, I don't know. It was a very cute, sweet episode. I loved the little bit that they, another little, I don't think it wasn't really a crossover, but with Dana from Step by Step kind of having that little bit with Cory, and then how she was like, animals are not just animals. Like animals have emotions and stuff too. I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, they do. I
Yes,
loved that
exactly.
bit.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah. That is one thing, like, I do think that some of these sitcoms were kind of missing, like for that family aspect was a pet. I mean, like Full
yeah,
House had Comet, but
right.
you really didn't see. I get it because
It's hard.
working with the animals and everything, and it's not always the best place for
Environment.
them,
Mm-hmm.
or even like just mentioning like, oh yeah, we used to have a pet, like those kinds of things.
Yeah, they do lack in that department of families that have those household pets and just the everyday life with them and kind of the
Mhm.
interactions and how they make you feel. Like that could be a great show, but again, I'm kind of glad they don't have it because I don't need the animals to be on set all the time and have to
No.
partake in all of the potentially abusive training. So
Yeah, exactly. All right. So we are now on to season 4.
season
And this
four,
will be the last season that we
when the
discuss on this
boy meets
episode.
world. We finally have the when the boy meets
Boy Meets
world.
World.
They're getting in the car. They're driving now. They're,
Yeah.
they're what you call it, juniors in high school, and woo, shit's happening.
Your episode, season 4, episode 2. Hair today, Goon tomorrow.
I liked this episode.
Oh, yeah.
I think this is probably a more classic Boy Meets World episode that a lot of people remember. I just think the life lesson in this is very relatable. Like I think absolutely everyone has gone through this, and if you say you haven't, you're probably fucking lying, because if you never have looked in the mirror and just kind of a little bit been self-conscious about what you see or not liked or whatever, well, okay, congrats to you if you've never had to
Yeah.
experience that.
Golf clap.
Let me bow down to you. But like, no, real life, this shit happens. We go through it. Even after we get out of school, we still go through it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just loved how they did that. Like it was Topanga was like great in the way that they did it with Topanga,
Oh, yeah.
where we all know about her hair and stuff, and then just, which wasn't even that drastic, where I was like, like it, but it really wasn't like what, but to her
Yeah.
it was.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, and then I mean, it took 6 to 7 years to grow it out. I mean, I completely understand. Like, getting hair that long, that gorgeous, and oh my gosh, like,
To die for hair.
yes, like, oh my gosh, I envy her hair. Like,
I envied that bathroom at the school too. Like,
oh my
why didn't
gosh,
I have a couch? What the hell?
what the
Pink
I will.
couch.
Oh, that would have been ideal for fucking middle school and high school to have a couch. Because they were right. Like some days, girls just need to lay the fuck down.
Exactly.
It's
And
hard
sometimes you have
enough.
to wait in line, so it's like be nice to just sit on the couch while you wait to go.
Yeah, I did love how Shawn kind of helps
Mm-hmm.
her realize, not necessarily where she was in the wrong, but just why Cory was acting so different, and what was going on in his head. Kind of, Shawn was kind of almost like a translator
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
everything. So I love that.
Yeah, he was a perfect best friend in this episode. Like, yeah, he was being silly in the beginning with all the little when she comes
The
out the
hair
salon.
flips.
But that's just him being goofy and stuff. So it really was really nice to see him in that bathroom having that talk to her, and she was like, wake up call, like, what, like, yeah, why the fuck am I worried about this? Nothing else is changing, so
Yeah,
why am I doing this?
absolutely. I freaking I I did love how she's like, this hair with this outfit,
I
I'm
love
heading
okay,
to the mall.
I love that line. I do remember that. Like, this hair, this outfit, and hello, bye-bye.
Yeah.
Like, I
Or
love that.
the part where it's where Cory's like, stop looking at her toes, but they're so sparkly.
Oh, so cute. And then you have Cory, who is, for some reason, he's dressing like a dad. Like, you saw that polo tucked in, the belt, the jeans. I'm like,
Yes.
why is he wearing like you're almost like, Topanga, you might be able to do better.
We're not going to talk about the guys' fashion in this show. Like,
there's a lot of denim happening. Like
a lot of
denim.
like baggy denim.
Denim over shirts, button-ups, vests, denim.
Oh my gosh.
There's so much going on. Then you got Cory in a polo tucked in.
Yeah, like what the why? Like, I get that they're trying to kind of separate like Shawn and Cory's style choices. Shawn being kind of the more cool kids style, with Cory being the
but
best
like
friend. But
you could, I don't know, you could have done differently with that. Like, I understand not wanting them to dress the same with the longer untucked button-ups, but I don't know, there's so many different directions they could have gone with them. Like a t-shirt, I don't know, I don't recall seeing kids in high school wearing that get up. Like, I don't know, like it was very cringe.
yeah, I think part of it for us too was we were a few years later in high school. So
Yeah,
I mean, we were in high school in the 2000s. This was still technically the 90s,
later 90s,
for high school, whereas like the later years of the show, the last couple years, was college for them.
But I even feel like Minkus dressed better than him. Like,
yeah, that was sad.
I was just like, wait a second, did they really?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, I still can't get over her fucking hair though.
She went through a lot of hair transformations, with the curly to the very super long straight, then her more shorter layered Rachel look, almost, or what they called like the Rachel back then. Yeah,
like literally the picture I have that's like right up here signed of her is, I think, probably is still from around this time and everything. At least like the hairstyle is very similar to that. I enjoy this episode, and
yeah, this one was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. My last episode for season 4 wasn't quite so much fun. So season 4, episode 21, Cult Fiction.
I do not remember this episode.
I remember this episode because this is the episode that Mr. Turner was in the hospital, had his bike accident.
Yeah, I didn't remember that.
I did, because I believe it's very soon after, I think, that he left the show.
Yeah, I think he does at the end of this season. He leaves.
Yeah. They use this. Now, granted, like, they didn't kill him off or anything, thank God.
This was a sad episode.
This was a sad episode.
Wow.
Yeah. So the girl who takes Shawn to the center, or whatever it is, was actually later in She's All That.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, she is one of the friends of the popular girl.
Okay.
Because there's the popular girl, then there's Gabriella Union, and then there's her.
Okay. I haven't seen that movie in
I
20 years.
Watched it like I think I watched it right before MegaCon because Matthew Lillard and everything. So yeah, this episode was very, very interesting because you didn't see this kind of shit. I can't recall.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of another show that really did that whole cult aspect to it. Like,
yeah,
straight up, you're going into a cult. It seems a little bit, it seems very off. It seems a little creepy that this older guy is recruiting all of these. They seem like all teenagers. So that's a little like, red flag, red flag.
Yeah.
And then Shawn just like, all right, that sounds like a great idea. Let's do this.
Again, you got to think about the fact that his family dynamic wasn't.
Yes and no, though, because like he was taking it to the extreme. You know, everyone, yes, he has so many people by the end that were surrounding him and supporting him and being like, hey, wake up, Shawn. Like, what are you doing? Like, this isn't for you. And he was basically blowing them all off when, after, you know, we're into season 4 now.
I do think, though, that portrayed the cult culture that we see so much very well.
Mm-hmm.
Because you always hear about when people get roped in, whatever you want to say, get talked into joining these. We're not going to go into the politics on this, but you always hear how they react to those who do know them, known them for a long time, their family, something in their demeanor has changed.
Mm-hmm.
They're being very influenced by the people in this cult. The leader of this cult has a way of manipulating, whatever you want to call it.
I can understand all that happening, but I know this is for a 20-minute show, but it happened very quickly. Like, he didn't know this chick. All of a sudden he's following her. They're like holding hands, walking into this cult. And it's like,
yeah, like
you're moving a little too quickly, Shawn. Like, you're not that dumb. Like, yeah, he was a little bit lost and he was going through a lot of shit, like as a teenager you are, and very understandable with his background. But you're also thinking, this is stupid. Like, this is stupid.
It might have honestly been a better two-parter.
Yeah, I agree.
To do that, but I think probably part of the reason they didn't was because they probably didn't know how well it was going to take.
That's true.
Cult topics are very taboo.
You ever been in a cult, April?
No. unless you call like freaking, unless you call this a cult where we discuss 90s shit, or like conventions a cult. I mean, those are kind of culty in a sense.
Yeah, it could be.
No. I've never even had that type of a experience, I guess.
No, I don't even know of anyone that's been in a cult. Never been close to encountering being in a cult. Like, I don't know that I know of. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it still goes on. That's for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But I think that with just the previous history the US has with cults, I think, like I said, this was I think they were testing the waters to see where they could push some things.
I'm curious as to, it'd be something to look into, how many other shows kind of dived into this. Were there any other series that did some type of cult type episode? Because I can't really recall any of the ones that I have watched that even tried to dabble in it in the way that they really deep dive this one. Like, they put Shawn deep into this, where everyone's trying to pull him out, and I absolutely just was cheering and clapping when the dad just went for it in the hospital. Like, he was like, you are not fucking doing this.
Yes.
I was like, yes, tell him.
And that is why Alan Matthews was my number one dad pick.
Exactly. That's why he's on the top dad pick of the 90s, because he really is for looking out for not even his own kid. He's just there looking out for him. And regardless.
Like him saying, I did love how he's like, I will kill to keep Shawn safe.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised they put that in there. That's dark line.
That it was left in there.
It was left in. You could see the mom in the background like, oh.
And her response, he would just love to sue. An excuse to sue. And I'm like,
just let him go for it.
Oh my gosh. I was like, that line right there almost feels like it was added after the fact for this day and age, because that is something like, oh my gosh, like if that fucking happened in real life today, that is the first thing that the cult leader would be like, I'm gonna sue you for assault and everything. It's like, you're fucking messing with kids who aren't even 18 to be able to have the adult power over themselves to feed what? Why?
Yeah. I don't know. I did feel like the episode kind of ended a smidge early. Like, there was that whole interaction with him and Mr. Feeny, and I kind of wanted to know more, because it seemed like they had a bit of a background. He wanted to close them down and all that kind of stuff, but I don't know. I felt like they could have almost, like you said, done a two-parter, or even not necessarily like the next week, but it could have been this could have continued on like in season 5. Maybe they brought it back because things are still happening. You know what I mean? Like with somebody else. Could have been cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did like that.
Oh yeah.
Until they got the bad news at the end. And then that kind of like brought everyone down to, oh shit, like Mr. Turner's in the hospital. Bad
injury. Like not just.
Yeah, it did not look good.
Yeah.
I had like when Shawn was in the room with him, it kind of gave me like a Seventh Heaven-y vibe. I don't know if you got that same feeling, but just the way that he was talking, and then like I don't know how much the show brought this into the series, but where he like was talking to God. I don't know. It just kind of made me think a little Seventh Heaven-y vibes, but I don't know if that's something that Boy Meets World did often, because I feel like this is the first episode I've kind of heard him mention God. So it was a little weird. It was a little off.
I don't personally remember that being discussed in really any other episodes. I think because of the whole fact that there was the cult aspect already. And I believe it was this at the beginning of this episode where Alan was even asking Shawn, are you religious? Like, what do you believe in? I think because he had asked him that's then why they proceeded to bring that up. Him talking to God, because a lot of people in that type of a situation who are lost and are then faced with something like that, where somebody gets hurt and they don't have the power to be able to do something, like somebody being in the hospital like that. Just from personal experience and everything, a lot of times the first thought is to either be mad at God, like because you want to yell and scream at somebody, like you're not going to go out and just punch some random person to get your anger out.
Yeah, some people do.
Some people do, but obviously a little bit more level-headed people aren't going to do that. It's either going to be a scream and yell. You're in an empty room. A person you love's got freaking tubes coming out of their mouths and wrapped up and everything. You're either like so emotionally angry that you just want to scream and you want to put that towards something, or you're so emotionally distraught that you break down to then ask for, like Shawn did, ask for help and guidance. And it's almost one of those things where when somebody keeps telling you the same thing, it starts to go in one ear and out the other. Human nature, just human nature. With this, it's like being able to talk to God helps people kind of try to work through a way that they can make sense. Like I said, from what I've known and what I've seen, what I've personally experienced, you're a lot of times one or the other. You're either like so angry or you're so distraught in those situations, and you look to something for a reason for it. I mean, like he was saying, like, Mr. Turner's never been that reckless on a bike, so why did it have to happen to him? I mean, that's a thought process. And I think that, like I said, I think this episode, they were testing the waters on a lot of things.
Oh, yeah.
And seeing what would any of it resonate with people enough to proceed further on.
Must not have, because I don't think they did. I don't think they went anywhere. I think that was like, nah, let's not go that way. Let's just keep doing the goofiness, the relationships. And
I think it was also too that this episode kind of touched on, like, it makes you believe that, like, that religion is a part of the family that you just aren't seeing. Just how Alan had asked about it, and it's just kind of that unseen, that doesn't need to be shown, kind of thing.
Yeah, it really didn't. And I mean, you already kind of had Seventh Heaven, so they really didn't need another show that was getting too deep in that anyways. It just it wouldn't have worked well for it.
Wouldn't have lasted. No.
Not
at all.
So that's wrap up part 1.
That's a wrap on those episodes for part 1, but I do got a question for you.
Let's do it.
Because I'm not gonna be able to pick her either. Besides Topanga, who would you say is your favorite character on Boy Meets World of the first 4 seasons?
Besides Topanga, I mean, gosh, you got rid of the only good one.
I made you
I
think.
think no, that's not hard to answer. I think, like I was saying earlier, rewatching it and getting different perspectives from the more adult characters, Mr. Feeny is kind of a shoo-in. Like he really did win my heart over, and we didn't even really talk yet about the episode that kind of made me really change that and kind of open up my eyes to it. That'll be part 2, everyone. Make sure you listen. But yeah, I mean, Mr. Feeny is, that was going to be one of my questions to you too, is did you ever have a teacher role model figure like that in school that you felt like you could turn to for help, or that maybe was there to just talk to you about things at all?
I mean, I had teachers that were very easy to talk to, and I had a couple of ones in high school that, while they weren't necessarily as wise, I guess, in a sense, as Feeny, there were ones that were relatable, easy to talk to, and yes, role models, but I don't think I ever necessarily had anybody quite like how Feeny is portrayed. If somebody did, good God, you are lucky.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm jealous.
I mean,
yeah.
I think that's kind of why so many people, like you said, especially as adults rewatching this, they feel more towards Mr. Feeny than what we necessarily would have as children and kids and teenagers, because we didn't necessarily have that particular role model, and he resonates with us more, and just learning the lessons and everything. And so, like I said, I didn't have anybody to that extreme, and not really ones that like could just go to for any type of advice or anything. But what about you?
Yeah, I would have loved it. But I also kind of question myself too, as far as was I just not open to it? You know what I mean? Like, did I just go to school, put my head down, do my work, and go home? Did I not see that there were teachers offering help, or maybe they were teaching us lessons or saying things, and I just wasn't really grasping it or taking it in? You know what I mean? Like, there could have been those opportunities. I had some great teachers growing up, like absolutely amazing teachers that I did enjoy their class and love being there and learning from them. But I was also a very introverted kid. I didn't want to have to talk if I didn't need to. So that was kind of my downfall. If I wasn't that way, then maybe I could have seeked them out, because I know I saw other kids talking to the teachers after class or before class, and they were saying things and stuff. I never did that. You know what I mean? Like, so I probably shot myself in the foot more than anything.
Hey, not being a little more introvert isn't always a bad thing. I mean, hell, it sometimes got me in fucking trouble if I was always mixed. Like, it would always be like, there are days that I'm like super extrovert, and then days where it's like, don't fucking talk to me. I mean, a part of a good chunk of my senior year, I was the latter. Yeah, like, now that you say it, I did have a couple of teachers that like I would have conversations with, but again, it wasn't necessarily not to the extent and everything. It was just, I don't know, like, and maybe it was because of the fact that I wasn't necessarily like, I still felt kind of like an outsider at my high school, because I transferred in later in sophomore year. Whereas a lot of these teachers knew a lot of the students from siblings or their own kids, whatever. So there was also that, I feel like, for me. And then like the other school that I'd gone to, everybody had either already had one of my brothers. It was such a small town. Everybody already knew everything. You couldn't get away from it. And so it wasn't like you could go talk to a teacher, because the next day the entire town would know what you guys talked about. If like it was something you're going to confide in them to not have to talk to your parents, you get fucked. Oh, I mean, but that's just how the small town in the Midwest worked. So
Yeah. Just kids going to school, coming home, watching other kids going to school.
yeah,
I'm
exactly.
just thinking about that now. I'm like, wait a second. There was a lot of shows growing up where it's just about kids going to school, and we went to school, and they were what? That's just weird. Like, why did we love them so much? I don't know. That's funny.
Well, that is a wrap for
Wrap it
part
up.
one.
Because you know what? This outfit with these shoes. Hello. Bye-bye.
On to the mall. See you next time for part two. Patos.
Bye-bye.